welcome to the new normal. I'm your host, Lisa Davis, aka Litecoin Lisa. Sorry, I have been a tad absent. I have not been feeling well. Johnny Litecoin is hopefully going to be right back. He was here, and we were discussing the recent Coinbase attack, and does the question, does KYC really keep us safe, or does it really put us more at a risk? So I am going to do our little intro, and then I'm going to talk about it. And hopefully Johnny's going to join us again in between me coughing, and hopefully you guys will join us in the live chat as well. So appreciate you all joining us again. I apologize for my absence once again, but good to see you all here. Johnny, come back. All right, we're back. I am sure he had some technical difficulties or something. We always love these technical difficulties that happen just right at the nick of time. Thanks to everybody joining us in the chat. Good to see you, JB, Gazoo, Nana, and Mr. X. So I don't know if you guys heard, but there was the claim from Coinbase is that cyber criminals bribed and recruited rogue overseas support agents to pull data on, they're saying, less than 1%. No passwords, private keys, or funds were exposed. Prime accounts are also untouched. If you pay for Prime, they don't want your stuff. Like, this is so ridiculous. We'll reimburse impacted customers. More here. So apparently there was a $20 million ransom demand that they received, supposedly, and they're now establishing a reward fund leading to arrest and conviction of criminals for this attack. Hard for me to imagine that they, I'm not going to make any accusations, but this is Coinbase's reporting. So, just crazy to me. And the timing of this is interesting to me because this is just after a few days ago, I had heard that people were receiving threats from the three-letter agency because they had not even subpoenaed, I'm sorry, there was no subpoena. They had just requested, and Coinbase had given information without a subpoena, without any legal documentation. They had just turned over information of private individuals without any kind of warrant or subpoena to the three-letter agency, which actually goes against people's constitutional rights. And people were then receiving threatening letters from such three-letter agency. So to me, that's kind of strange that this would come on the heels. The timing is always suspect to me. That now, we've been hacked. So, Johnny, what do you think of this information about?
Sorry, I was late. Interesting time, and my internet went out of all times.
After we had just been talking for a good 20 minutes with no problem. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. We're gonna go, and I just when I said, I kept saying KYC too. It was like it almost triggered. I said it too many times, and it triggered.
Yeah, because you said, "Well, let's focus on the KYC. And then you talked about all of that and what our focus should be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Daddy-o.
So, here's the thing. I don't blame the companies themselves. I blame the blame all falls on the government, 100%. Because they require this. They manipulated us into this through the USA Patriot Act, which when that was passed, they did it very slick. That was passed right after 9/11, probably by like October 2001. That was passed, right? It's been haunting us ever since, but it didn't affect mainstream Americans for, maybe a good 10 years after that. So for 10 years, it was just,
Well, and Johnny, that's a great point in itself, because for it to be ready to go in October, for a bill to be sitting there ready to go in October of 2000.
It was ready in September. October is when it passed, but it was ready in September, a few days after 9/11. What does that tell you? Come on.
What is that? We know what it takes to get a bill through Congress. Yeah. I mean, created, passed, written through Congress.
It's probably like 1,000 pages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this was ready to go.
Ready to go. And I was against it way back then, because I remember questioning it. I said, how are they going to just go after terrorists with this thing? I said, it doesn't make any sense. And I remember, people were like critical of me at the time. They're like, oh, you're not being like a good American. You're not being a good patriot. No, I said, no, this is going to be used against us. And I was like, all right. And I remember asking someone, I said, what about like mafia people? Would they use it against them? And they're like, oh, I'm sure they would use it against them, right? So it's like, okay. I said, what about like drug dealers? They use it against them? Oh, yeah, I'm sure they're using drug dealers. Okay. What about people selling like small amounts of marijuana? Would they use it against them? And they were like, well, maybe. I said, so now we went from fighting terrorists to getting our own citizens potentially selling small amounts of marijuana using this Patriot Act. And it's like, come on, think. Eventually they'll use it against all of us. Come on. And that's exactly what happened. So for me, my knowing of this came before crypto was from the credit card processing business. And they came down on the whole industry, and they were like, you have to have AML. What's your AML compliance protocol? And at that point, it was 2015, you had to get KYC for any merchant account. Before then, you could have just got like business financials or things of that nature. Because again, it was going through the business's tax ID number. So why were we getting personal people's info? So I saw from then, I was like, people hate doing this. And even choke point stemmed from the Patriot Act. Even choke point stemmed from it. But really it was this collecting of document stuff with this KYC AML compliance. And then in crypto, they started doing it. I was like, well, of course they're doing it because they've been enforcing it in the regular. So they'll probably make it a bigger deal in crypto, right? And then, but little do they know, like, well, I'm sure they knew it. They don't even give a shit, these lunatics. They made the companies honeypots of data. And now the companies collecting all the data are targets. They're targets by criminal groups. They know, hey, who do we go after to get all this data of people that have crypto? Now we could target, you know what I mean? So
to that point, Mom had a great point. She said, so what are they doing with this data? Because if I don't keep my coins on Coinbase, but let's say I used Coinbase. So let's say these dastardly dudes got my information. If Coinbase had my KYC info and they captured my KYC info, what could they do to me? Is that something they could take my information and then go hack?
They could tell how much you bought. If you bought, if you bought $300 worth of Litecoin, they're going to be like, okay, this is a nothing. If you bought $3 million worth of a coin, they're going to be like, hey, this might be a good person to target them for a robbery. And there has been a lot of high stakes crypto robberies as of late. I think an influencer somewhere got robbed for like $20 million or something. It was a girl. I think she had flashed her wallet, flexing. These kids flexing her wallet on like TikTok or something. And
somebody's like, it was an influencer, or not an influencer even. I don't know. Some big crypto person's daughter got attacked or something on the streets of somewhere, Paris maybe.
Yeah.
And they beat her up and took her phone.
Yeah. So that's really what you're
so even personal attacks at your home, because they have your home address.
So they made it where now you're at more risk of getting robbed and targeted. And then just in general, the collecting of data, what I saw on the merchant processing end of payment processing, people don't want to give it. They're like, why do I have to give this info? It's for my business. Why do I have to give you all my social security number, all my identifying? It's my business. It's processing payments that the system's forcing them into these payments. We have to process them to stay competitive. Now I'm a business. Now I have to give you my personal info. And now, are you going to keep this info safe? Where are you going to, you know what I mean? So but the truth is, if you want to get the processing, you have to give it. If not, you don't get it, so that's what it boils. But in the crypto world, and then obviously the government wants it. They say to prevent money laundering and all that stuff, but really I think it's for tax collection purposes. Yes. Yeah. Money laundering. I mean, come on, that's a joke. That's the thing
when they literally say we're going to file I don't remember what there's a form after when you withdraw, and I don't know if you've seen this. They arrested this guy. He's a Black Panther, which I don't know what his political affiliation has to do with anything, but he's very calmly standing at the bank teller, Bank of America, and he's standing there, and he does have a mask on because he's woke or whatever. I'm assuming, I'm making assumptions. And the police body cam is filming this, and they come up behind him. One guy is standing behind him, draws his gun on the guy. The other guy is filming and says, "Sir, we need to talk to you," with guns drawn on a perfectly calm dude. And he's like, "What's happening? I mean, what's going on?" And they take him outside. Well, then the video is still rolling, and he's like, "Okay, I understand you have to explain your perspective, but you need to hear my perspective. Is that I came in, I asked to withdraw $12,000. She asked me for my ID. I put my card in. I put my PIN number in. I gave her my ID, and they said, 'Sure, someone's helping you, sir. Just wait a minute.'" And then they came back and checked on me and said, "Are you doing okay? They're coming to check. They're waiting on you. They're checking on you." So he thinks everything is fine. And meanwhile, the girl, the office manager, is having him removed from, allegedly, this is what the video looks like, from the from the bank for withdrawing money from the account. He's not arrested. He's let go on the thing.
I believe it.
And this is and then another one in Australia recently.
Well, if you think about it, Lisa, this stuff was put in place. You're talking about or even with the $10,000 reporting requirements. That was put into place, I believe, in the mid-'80s, and they said that was to combat money laundering. Okay, so let's leave that story as it is. $10,000 in 1985. Well, what's that today? What's $10,000 in 1985 in today's money? 40,000?
Maybe. Oh no, it'd be at least 20,000.
Oh, at least. Oh my God.
I mean,
10 grand in 1980. You're looking at 30 to 40,000.
Yeah.
All right. So my point being that instead of raising the limit, because saying, hey, there's a lot of inflation, we shouldn't have to bother people unless it's a $30,000 withdrawal, right?
Mhm.
And I guess in a way, you'd understand on the bank's end for fraud if it was really big. We want to do some extra checks or whatever. Just okay, I would understand that on a massive withdrawal. But instead, they made the level or the threshold lower where they bother people. Now I think TD Bank won't even let you get more than $3,000 cash out of it at once.
Yeah. In fact, Spain just put out a thing that you are limited to $3,000 a day. I think with threats of arrest. I need to validate. I need to verify
I've
all
been
that.
seeing that Spain thing. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No more than 3,000, and that's their dollars. I don't know what that equates to in US dollars.
Euros, I guess. So
Yeah, so
whatever the
euros.
exchange rate is of euro to, I think the dollar's a little stronger than the euro, I believe.
Okay. So it'd be less than that in our
Yeah,
equivalent
sure,
per day.
per day.
So I mean, they don't want you taking it out.
I did a tweet retweeted that when I said, reminder that the governments of the world absolutely hate us.
Yeah.
And that's the truth is, I mean, it's, and that's why I don't blame Coinbase. I don't blame these companies because while I have other gripes against these companies, I'm not protecting these companies. They have to collect this data. That's my thing, is that it's the government making them do it for something that it's not even, I mean, the Patriot Act, it's not really a law, is it? How does that work? If it's like, it's something that has to kept getting extended and like.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the
legality of it is.
An act versus a law. And if each state, it's kind of like the argument with the 16th Amendment. Well, it wasn't ratified in every state, so is it valid? There's all those like constitutional arguments.
Yep.
And a lot of that.
The other crazy thing is what this did is it made it so in the business I was in of payment processing, we would get targeted by a lot of fraudsters that wanted to set up like fraudulent accounts. And we always, they're pretty good some of the times. You don't really like know if they're fake or not. But what always was a dead giveaway, they can produce any document that you ask for fast. This is what they do. They're criminals, right? And meanwhile, like the guy at the deli, the guy at the pizzeria, the lady at the hair salon, right? They can't get you this stuff fast. For them, they're like, oh my, I got to leave work. I got to go to the bank and get that. Or
my mother's house.
My mother's house. So that, that normal people, that's how and it's a real hindrance for them. And on my end, this has been such a nuisance. I mean, I'm telling you, I hate these motherfuckers that put this stuff in place because they have, there's been so many times I've closed a deal and then they're like, oh, I'm not giving you my social security number or something. I'm not, and so
they do hate us. Yeah.
They hate us.
They do hate us. Robert Kiyosaki had a great, and I don't know if it was a tweet. I hope it was a tweet that I could share, but I don't think it was. But I can maybe sum it up for you guys. But he said, you have to be a critical thinker during these times. And he said, they want you to save money. And he said, and why do they want you to save money?
Save fiat, you mean?
Fiat, yes.
Save currency.
Because every time you save it, they can loan it out 10 times. And so you lose every time you save that dirty fiat. And so you need to use.
You devalue, in a sense, you devalue your dollar because by saving, you created more dollars.
You created, yes.
And their debt instruments with debt attached to it. Yep. So it devalued your dollar.
Yes, you are the loser on the end. You make more money for them and give yourself more debt. Yeah. You take on the burden and make more for them every time you save.
Isn't that a wild concept?
It's a wild concept, but this is the dirty trap that they trick people into, and it makes me think of, when Westwood talks about even, and I'm not sure how that transfers into using your Litecoin, but he talks about using it. It's a tool, use it and replace, and keep using this tool. And like, we have to stop putting our energy into something else, thinking that something is going to save us. You know what I mean? And so if you need the thing, buy the thing, use the thing, replace it, and keep putting it into those projects that are building and creating.
By using Litecoin, you're using a debt-free instrument.
Okay, so
there's a reason I tweeted a lot not recently, but in the last couple months, I tweeted probably two or three times pictures of a silver certificate. And the reason being, that was a debt-free instrument. And I like the idea that it was a paper dollar, looked just like the regular dollar people use. That was a debt-free instrument. That was redeemable in $1 in physical silver. And that to me was pretty cool. You know what I mean? And that's the idea of using Litecoin, that, yeah, probably is kind of a while since I tweeted, but maybe like a month ago. It would take probably a while to find that. Oh, there we go. Oh, I showed there United States. Oh, never mind. That was that Illuminati bot. But I thought, because I've done things like that. He points out it looks the same. Now go back to that, Lisa, because that actually makes a great point.
Okay.
Zoom in on that tweet. Because if you see now, United States, he said, the moment we stopped printing United States note and replaced it with Federal Reserve note was the moment America changed forever. United States note was a debt-free instrument. Even though it wasn't per se that necessarily, even though some of them wasn't necessarily backed by silver, it was issued from the Treasury as a debt-free instrument. Unlike a Federal Reserve note that's loaned into existence.
And right now we're going through the thing where the Fed got put into the Treasury, and that is being reversed, I believe.
Let's see.
I believe. We'll
Let's
see. We'll see.
Or maybe it becomes obsolete. Maybe they make it obsolete because maybe, say they rolled out, we'll call it a bipolar system, right? It's not where it's two competing currencies, but they look identical at first. And at first they have identical value, right? You have a Fed note and a Treasury coin, which
even like this,
which
right?
would be, now this Treasury coin, Lisa, would be a crypto of some type, right?
Okay.
So you have a Treasury coin, crypto, and a Fed note. Well, what if over time that Treasury coin crypto became more valuable? Even though they're both a dollar, maybe they have a different value in the future as far as purchasing power goes. Or maybe they split at some point, where at some point it's like, redeem your Fed notes. So they won't tell you it's losing money. Redeem your Fed notes dollar for dollar with the Treasury coin up until a certain date. After that, it's going to be at 90%. They'll give you a haircut. After that, it's at 80%. They'll keep giving you a haircut till you turn in the Fed notes into this Treasury coin. That could be a way they could do it. You know what I mean? Where it has a different, or they could just order them out of existence. Like we talked about those $500 bills, how they did it with that. But that's,
yeah, I was trying to find the Ruta picture where she's at the Fed, or she's at the bank, and she's trading dollar bills, notes, ferns for coins.
Oh, I've seen that. That's a cool picture.
That picture that Vic shows.
Yeah, that's cool.
Or she's at the bank, and then it goes. I can't find it. It's probably on his website, much easier. But Ruta Fed, comic book, Bigot Bank, gold for dollars. Maybe I can find it. Oh, there's clicks all over the place. I mean, I think we're right there. Like, I feel like, you know, it's just, and all these deals that Trump's been making with Qatar and
something's going to happen. I'd say
Iran.
something's going to happen with currency, with something. And I'd say you got to, nothing's going to happen overnight, but I think for a new currency, some type of, where stable coins kind of like, there's some type of new stable coin something coming, right? And maybe that's why they're saying no CBDC. If a treasury coin that's on a blockchain, that's not a CBDC. Then they could say, yeah, there's no CBDC if it's issued out of the treasury instead of the Fed.
Okay.
That's where I think this is going.
Interesting.
That's
there
just my thoughts, at least.
I know we have to go really quick.
And the gold-backed treasury was supposed to be released, I think, July 2026, I believe.
Oh, not till July 2026, huh? Because the sovereign wealth fund was, the plan for it was due May 3rd. But no one's really heard anything publicly.
I think if Andy had on that lady, what's the lady's name? That
Catherine Austin Fitz.
No, the one that Trump wanted for the Fed chair, Judy Shelton.
Judy Shelton was on Andy's? I missed that.
I think so. I'm almost positive. Yeah.
So I think she's Ruta.
And she talked about that gold-backed treasury, and I think she was saying July 2026.
Okay.
So that interesting now if that all lines up then, and there's some type of treasury coin, and maybe that coin has some type of backing of gold. Who knows? Who knows? Yeah. Something's going down.
Mm-hmm. Where's the pictures of the little Judy Shelton?
Keep stacking your silver, though. I guess that's a that's probably the safest place to be if you want just something that's the safest. Keep stacking your silver. If you want to be a little more speculative, stack your Litecoin and I guess some silver. Stack both. You know what I mean? But if you're like, hey, I don't want to, I guess silver would have less volatility right now. But I would think less. I could see more percentage return. That could be it. Wishes and rainbows right there. See that?
Yeah. There's little Judy Shelton for you.
There you go.
Because she wrote the book Money Meltdown. And after she wrote the book Money Meltdown, Nixon sent her a letter and said that the patient was very sick and needed a dose of medicine. And then when Trump was in the plane recently, he said the patient survived the operation. And now she's being brought in. And notice she erased she drew through 9/11 in the sand there. See here where she drew through 9/11? Because that was the original plan. And a lot of people think that was, and then she wrote this where it's like an infinity symbol.
Well, 9/11 was September 11th, 2008. It was when the financial system
should have crashed.
A couple hours from Kaplooey.
And that's when Rumsfeld got on and said, we're missing the 2 trillion or whatever. And then Building 7 fell. And then, so the line in the sand there, then she gets on and does this infinity. And so I think that's that.
No, Lisa, September 11th, 2008 was the financial meltdown.
Financial meltdown. Okay.
Financial meltdown. But coincidentally, they did it on September 11th. But this Road to Ruta document came out before then. So maybe that was the plan and it got derailed. I
Oh,
could see that of
I
happening.
see what you're saying.
Yeah. Because I
So
think Bix found these, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think he found these in 2007.
he found it before it happened. And when I
He
listened to
definitely
him
found
talk,
it before it happened. I don't know if it was before the original 9/11, but it was definitely before the financial meltdown 9/11.
no, yeah, I think you're right. And then he talks about then she drew a line through the 9/11 one. So now that makes more sense for the 2008 that they made a new plan, and then they planned this infinity thing, and so they're going to use modern monetary theory. This is the way I understand what he's saying. Um, to build the infrastructure needed and whatever, they're going to print it to infinity.
That's what we're on now is infinity money.
And that's what we're on now. The 17,
Yeah.
or no, 14.
And the big question is, when do they take the system down, or do they just let it run away and then manipulate us into something else? I could see that. I don't think they're going to just take the system down. I think they're going to trick us into something else to pacify us, where I don't know if it's going to be abrupt.
Well, I think that's where you get to choose. I think that's where it gets to be like there'll be two, and Cliff's data talks about parallel systems running. And I kind of think we already are in a parallel system, or maybe multiple systems. But our dollar is already digital. We're already in the matrix. We're already in the, sign of the devil 666, the things in your hand, you can't buy or sell without it. We're talking about the KYC, like all of that already exists. But there are other ways to opt out. And I think people will choose, like, are you going to live in slavery? Are you going to live in bondage? Or are you going to live in freedom? And people are going to choose, are you going to keep eating your children and shop at Target and McDonald's? Or are you going to grow your own food and have to, learn how to make bread? I don't know. Everybody's got to make those choices for themselves. So
good point.
I think that's those things. And, you start valuing things differently when you start waking up, and those things that you thought were important, like a coffee at some snotty shop called Vente, whatever, like it starts tasting real bad to you. And you feel like you're the stupid person standing in line, paying a lot of money for some burnt coffee. And you're like, what?
To feel good with your branded cup.
Yeah. Like you're the dumb person in the room. Like you have to be kind of embarrassed that you didn't make that shit at home for 50 cents. Like,
yeah, that's the society where they get us in this autopilot mode where you stop here, you do this, and then you're consuming. And remember, they want us, there's 4 quadrants. They want us sick, depressed, medicated, and dependent.
mm-hmm.
And they want us all like in this trance of sick, depressed, medicated, dependent. You got to be one there in their minds. Like, what are they going to be? Like, which one is it? Ideally, if they get you for all 4, then they really got you,
Yeah. And there's some amazing interviews right now. Tim Tebow just did an interview on Sean Ryan's show. And the Tom Homan, no L, interview just released as well. And part of the reason they want you those 4 things is so they can take your children, and they can take our children, and that you won't fight back, and that we have powerful, strong men and leading our families, and we won't have strong mamas protecting our children as well. And that is their biggest fear, is strong families.
Sure.
And people watching out for our children. And so I would challenge anyone to go watch those. Also check out John Rich from Big and Rich. He is trying to educate people on cyberbullying and the safety things you can do for your children online. All of those things are what we can do to, like, make the world not just the world, screw the world, but let's protect our children and
Yes.
our future. So
We drink to that.
we can do. That's right. Here, Waterloo. All right. You guys, thanks so much for being patient with me. Johnny, thanks for joining me tonight and putting up with all my coughing. And
great show, great topic, and just let's hope the word keeps spreading about this stuff and people wake up, and then it's going to make DeFi more powerful. So ultimately, the more powerful these decentralized exchanges are, that empowers us, because now we're not playing in the infrastructure they built. We're playing in the infrastructure we built. And obviously, DeFi is not perfect. There needs to be better DeFi protocols and be more decentralized. I get it. But at least it's a start, and it's a tool that we have to fight the bad guys with.
Absolutely. All right. Well, when the bell tolls, it's time to go. You guys take care. Good night.
Bye, guys.